Hello, how are you doing? Let's dive into another of my key takeaway episodes. I've got something really important on my list to share with you today that's going to help you communicate more accurately. Let's crack on then, shall we? Hello and welcome back to Confident Business English. You're here with me, Anna, your neuro language coach. Let's jump straight in. We are going to be talking about tenses today, and I'm going to focus on the present perfect and the present perfect continuous. I'm going to definitively walk you through when you need to use this tense in a business context. Both of these tenses are absolutely essential for business communication, which is why it's really worth focusing on this. And if you feel like you lack confidence about when to properly use the present perfect or present perfect continuous, this is really going to help you. The goal, of course, always is to use the right tense at the right time, but that can be challenging. You may have some doubts, and in your own native language, it might be a little bit different than it is in English. Let's try and sort that out today then, and build your confidence with when to actually use these tenses to help you communicate more accurately and, as a result, of course, more effectively. Right then, the present perfect and the present perfect continuous. I'm not going to go in depth into the grammar and the structures because I'm going to assume that you already have a level of understanding around this. What I really want to focus on is where you have to use this in a business context and some clear examples. The most common problem I see with the present perfect is just that people don't use it correctly, right? So, for example, it could be a sentence like, rather than saying, so far this year, we have brought in 500,000 euros in sales. Brought in, by the way, just means generate. You might say something like, so far this year, we did 500,000 euros in sales. And I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's hardly the worst mistake in the world. And often these types of corrections aren't a major issue because we have context. And context is your best friend in business because even if you don't hit all the points perfectly, the listener knows what time period you talk about. However, that's not always the case. Sometimes there isn't always context. If you're jumping around a lot and not being consistent, or you might use a tense that doesn't accurately get across what you want to say. And I'm going to explain a little bit more about that in a minute. I think one of the best ways to think about the present perfect is with a window analogy, and we're going to compare to the past simple. Two windows side by side. The first window represents the past simple. It's closed, the blinds are down, the curtains are shut. The action is finished and the time is really clear. Yesterday I spoke to John. This morning I had a call with Sarah. Last year was good revenue-wise. I chatted with Simon yesterday morning, blah, 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 you get my drift. The present perfect, however, that window is open. The curtains are drawn, the blinds are up, and you can see through the window now. And that's the important thing, is that in some way, the present perfect connects to the now. Let me now go through the categories one by one about when you can use the present perfect in a business context. The first one then, nice and straightforward, easy peasy, recent actions completed at an unspecified time in the past, and that's where it differs from the past simple, right? Imagine your colleague says something to you like this. I've spoken to John, Sarah has sent out the agenda, Michael has finished the report, John hasn't got back to me, Simon hasn't updated the system, etc., etc. What do all these sentences have in common? They describe past actions, but we're not saying when, right? And they're relevant now because they set the stage for what happens next. They're almost like a bridge into the now because these actions could affect a decision, an action, or an expectation going forward. For example, Sarah has sent out the agenda, so now everybody should be ready for the meeting. Michael has finished the report, so now We can send it, review it, or present it, whatever we want. We're talking about what's happened so that we know what we can do or what we can't do or what we should do next. The window is still open. Let's move on now and do an extension of that first part, and let's rephrase those sentences using the adverbs already, yet, and just. And what these adverbs allow you to do is give even more information about timing, which can help you communicate what is going on more accurately. I've already spoken to John. Sarah has already sent out the agenda. Michael has just finished the report. John hasn't got back to me yet. Simon hasn't updated the system yet. Both versions of those sentences are correct, but if you add the already, what you're telling your colleague is that action has happened before now or sooner than expected. We don't get that with the first sentence. If we compare, I've spoken to John, I've already spoken to John, we're getting extra information there which could be more accurate to what the situation is. If you're saying Michael has just finished the report, you're telling your colleague that it happened very, very recently, like half an hour ago, 5 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago, something like that. We don't get that with the first sentence, which is just Michael has finished the report. But you're giving me something extra with the just, which could be more, again, accurate to the situation. Finally, by using yet, Simon hasn't got back to me yet. You're telling your colleague that this should have happened by now. We don't get that in the first sentence. Simon hasn't got back to me. Okay, neutral, fine. But the yet tells them that this should have happened by now. You're waiting for something. So hopefully you can see how using these adverbs with the present perfect helps you to communicate more accurately what the situation is. Let's move on to look at another category where we use the present perfect in a business context, which is about experiences. Rather than personal experiences, here we're talking about throughout your career, for example, or the company, their background, their history. And really common things here are never and always. For example, we've always worked with the system. And the reason we're using the present perfect here is because this is relevant to the now. The window is open. This past experience with this system shapes how we operate now, today. I've never worked with this provider before. Well, never up until this moment, but you may in the future, which brings it back to the now. The window is still open. You may also ask a colleague if you've just met them, you're making conversation, have you ever been here before? At any time in your life up until now, there's the connection to the present, have you ever been here? Next category, actions that started in the past. They've got an anchor in the past, but they continue until now or they still affect the present. And the big one here is where you're answering that question, how long? The classic, I've been working in my company since 2000. The new CEO has been working here for 3 months. We've been trying to sort out this problem for 2 weeks. Just a quick reminder that since is a specific start date and for you're emphasizing the amount of time. Next category that's really useful is when, again, we're talking about work that started in the past but is continuing now. And here it's very common to use things like so far. So far this year, so far this month, so far this quarter. For example, so far this year, we have brought in, remember that one from before, generate 1 million euros in sales. Not bad. So far this quarter, we have taken on 10 employees. The action may be completed, but the time period is not, which means it still connects to the now. The window is still open. You might be thinking, well, why are you using the present perfect and not the present perfect continuous? Why couldn't we say, for example, so far this year we have been bringing in 1 million euros in sales? Well, there is an answer to that. It's because the emphasis of these sentences is on the result rather than the duration. I've been working in this company for 6 months. The focus is on the duration and the process rather than the end result. End results, present perfect. We brought in 1 million euros. We've achieved all 6 milestones. We've taken on 5 new interns. Finally, the last category I'm going to touch on where we use the present perfect and the present perfect continuous is to describe temporary situations. And here it could be something like recently or lately. For example, recently we've been having a lot of problems with the server. Recently I've been doing a lot of overtime. Lately things have been really difficult in the office. Recently, we've been dealing with a lot of issues with the client. All of these sentences are using the present perfect and the present perfect continuous because they're part of an ongoing or a recent pattern that gives an explanation for why things are the way they are now. It's the bridge that's connecting us from the past to why things are like this in the present. This is a really important point to make sure that you're communicating effectively what you want to say. Let's imagine that you want to get across to your colleague that there has been a trend for bad behavior in the team. If you said, last week we had a problem with the team, that's one specific event. It doesn't get across that it's part of a trend. Whereas what it should be is recently we've been dealing with or having a lot of problems with behavior in the team. That gets across that it's ongoing, that it's repeated, and it's part of a trend. So you can see how that both of those sentences are technically correct, but you're getting across different things. Let's recap. And I appreciate that it's a very high level, quick overview of the different categories, but these really are the core ways that you're going to have to use the present perfect in a business context. Number 1, actions that happened at an unspecified time in the past. Anna has sent out the agenda. 1B is adding different adverbs to give your listener more information. Anna has already sent out the agenda. It's happened before now. Anna has just sent out the agenda very recently, or Anna hasn't sent out the agenda yet. It hasn't been done, but it should have been. Secondly, experiences. We've always worked with this provider. I've never worked with this supplier. I've always worked in this company. Thirdly, actions that started in the past and continue until now or affect the present. And this could be A, answering the question, how long? I've been working in the company since 2000. Or B, so far this year, we have brought in 1 million euros in sales. And then finally, temporary situations. Recently, the team has been working really, really well. Lately, I've been really stressed out with work. If you really found that episode useful and the podcast in general, don't forget to sign up and become a free member of Confident Business English. You get the full transcripts and my weekly newsletter on Friday with extra tips that I don't include on the podcast. The link to join up is in the description of this episode. Thanks so much, as always, for squeezing me into your very busy week, and I hope that left you feeling a little bit more confident about using the present perfect. Look forward to speaking to you next week. Bye-bye.